Hey YouTube, what's up? Hope everyone's doing good. I just want to read for a moment and make a few comments off of the globalist site Wikipedia. They're about as biased as I can think of. You know, these people here, they censor and they biased about a lot of topics, and they're being used as like the framework of truth. A lot of times when you have videos that have any type of controversial nature, YouTube slaps a label and saying that this is the real information, and they usually cite something off of either Wikipedia or I think they're also using the Encyclopedia Britannica now as well. They're both very globalist. I don't trust those sources. Totally manipulated. So just a heads up, but you may have different ideas about some of this stuff. That's fine. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a taste of of maybe an insight, at least how I think. And I know that this is not just me thinking this. Most of you guys have shared enough over the years that I kind of understand that you think this way too, is because it's based on facts. And you can see that the way that people think about the world has changed a lot in the last few years. In particular, the last 10, 15 years, I've really noticed a big change that people are just kind of moving more towards socialism, you know, and it really concerns me a lot. And I see that a lot on Wikipedia. So I'm over here on Wikipedia with this the title of Sustainable City. Sustainable City. And the reason I came across this was I was researching sustainability, you know, for preparedness, like what you can do on an individual level. You know, what can, you know, a father and a mother do to help their family be more sustainable, you know, so they can be more prepared. But I kept on finding all these links and articles about cities, you know, these sustainable cities. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, well, let me just check this out. So I checked it out and I kept on reading all this, spent hours reading about this. And then I run into the Wikipedia page. And to me, it was so telling about what the agenda is and what the propaganda really points to that I just can't not talk about this. So once again, you take it as you will. You may not think that it means anything, but I'm just going to share it and you must make up your own mind. So here we go. Sustainable city. Sustainable cities, urban sustainability, or eco-cities is a city designed with consideration for social, economic, environmental impact, and resilient habitat for existing populations without compromising the ability of future generations to experience the same. Now, just within that sentence there, they started out with social. So there's social sustainability. So what do they mean by social? Well, if you study the globalists at all, they have lots of different types of social engineering. And so they're always concerned about how the mentality is socially and how the social order is. You know, are the people doing what they're supposed to be doing? You know, are they controlled enough? You know, are they too free? You know, and so if they're too free, we got to make some more laws and put some more restrictions. And so that's a concern. We have to be aware of that part, though, of all these so-called sustainability movements. The social part is very, very important to keep an eye on. Okay, so the next part here, it says, these cities are inhabited by people whom are dedicated. We got to remember this, dedicated. It's almost like when we read this, though, it's like a cult movement, though. So these cities are inhabited by people whom are dedicated towards minimization of required inputs of energy, water, food, waste, output of heat, air pollution. But they couldn't just say air pollution. They have to, because they're globalists, you know, they push an agenda. They have to say what type of air pollution. And they first started out saying CO2, you know, the super scary, very dangerous CO2. Yeah. You know, that's the stuff that we exhale. Yeah. And plants breathe it, though. And the more that the plant can breathe and get it, the more it grows. It's a building block of the plant. Oh, but it's air pollution. Yeah, that's what they just said here. And the next part is methane. Oh, it's the dangerous methane. It's supposedly linked to all of this climate change and global warming, which there is no warming, but it's global warming, they say. And of course, because there is no global warming, they have to say climate change. It's all bunk. It's lies. So you have methane. Do you know that 7% of the average, and I'm not trying to be gross or disrespectful, but 7% of the average flatulence that's out there, the average fart, 7% is methane. So once again, we can't exhale or fart because it's air pollution. Yeah. What is that all about? And then the next sentence, or the remaining part of that sentence says, and water pollution. Well, obviously, but guess who's polluting our water? Oh, it's our own government, fluoride and chlorine and all this garbage in our water. And you wonder, people are just not right, and people aren't living as long. I wonder why. Okay, so it goes on to talk about some things from a gentleman named Richard Register. He says supposedly was the first to coin the term eco-city in a 1987 book called Eco-City Berkeley, blah, blah. And then it says there is no completely agreed upon definition of what a sustainable city should be. Okay, well, I kind of disagree with that, but you have that. And it says developmental experts, whoever they are, agree that a sustainable city should meet the needs of the present without sacrificing the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Okay. And it just says that there's a lot of people who have different ideas of what that means. No kidding. Ideally, it says a sustainable city creates an enduring way of life across the 4 domains of ecology, economics, politics, and culture. I thought it was really interesting that they put that in there, that politics was like one of the 4, of sustainability. Well, I mean, sure it is in some ways. You have to have social order. But what's really interesting, though, is the type of social order that the New World Order wants. Okay. And it says here that, however, minimally a sustainable city should firstly be able to feed itself with a sustainable reliance on the surrounding countryside. Okay, let me just interject here. Then we probably need to get rid of all these plants that are not open pollinating, these hybrid plants, these GMO plants, the plants that have like the pesticide and the herbicide built in that we consume. Yeah, those are not very ecological, but that's what's being pushed across the globe. So what's up with that? Okay, so let's go to the next sentence. Secondly, it should be able to power itself with renewable sources of energy. The core of this is to create the smallest conceivable ecological footprint while producing the lowest quantity of pollution achievable. Oh, yeah. Once again, you can't exhale and you can't fart because it's pollution. All while achieving efficient use of land, or it says while efficiently using the land. Composting used materials and recycling or converting waste to energy. All these contributions will lead to the city's overall impacts on, guess what? Climate change. I thought we were talking about sustainable cities, but no, we're talking about climate change now. Okay. To be minimal, and we're talking about, this is the impacts on climate change to be minimal and with as little impact as possible. All right. So, and then it talks about this city council. I'm not even sure how you pronounce this particular city council. I'm going to skip over it. It says that the city council states that socially sustainable cities should be equitable, diverse, connected, and democratic, and provide a good quality of life. Now, what the hell does that mean? That's about as open-ended as you can imagine. I find it interesting that they say equitable and diverse. Yeah, well, of course, because that's politically correct to say that. I mean, God forbid you had the same type of people in the same city. I mean, that's really bad. And it says democratic. Yeah, well, there's also socialists that call themselves democratic too, So I think that word is pretty watered down. And so provide a good quality of life. Yeah, a good quality of life for who? Those who are in power. So the next paragraph, it says, a sustainable city can feed itself with minimal reliance on the surrounding countryside and power itself with renewable sources of energy. The crux of this is to create the smallest possible ecological footprint and to produce the lowest quality of pollution possible to efficiently use land, compost materials, recycle it, or convert waste energy, and thus the city's overall contribution to climate change will be minimal if such practices are adhered to. And that paragraph is almost echoing the paragraph before it. I'm not even sure why they even put that in there. But see, what they do is sometimes they like to recap some of the things they say, and they like to repeat themselves, even though they just said it. So just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention, because I keep on finding the same bits of information just retold in different ways. It says next here that it is estimated that over 50% of the world's population now lives in cities and urban areas. These large communities provide both challenges and opportunities for environmentally conscious developers. And they highlight that, environmentally conscious. Ooh, so that's very important to be. I mean, I'm not against, being environmental, but it seems like that's a big focus. There are distinct advantages to further defining and working towards the goals of sustainable cities, it says. Humans are social creatures. Okay, well, I can think of a lot of different creatures that are social. But it says that humans are social creatures and thrive in urban spaces that foster social connections. Oh, really? So what about all the people who live in an urban area versus all the people who live in rural areas like myself? So I guess I'm not a social creature because I don't live in urban spaces? I guess I don't foster social connections? This is bullshit. Okay. Richard Florida, that's his actual name, Richard Florida, an urban studies theorist, this should be interesting, focuses on the social impact of sustainable cities and states that cities need to be more than a competitive business climate. They need to be a great people climate that appeals to individuals and families of all types. Once again, we have to have diversity. Diversity is part of sustainable cities. Seriously? Okay, so focuses on the social impact of sustainable cities and states that the cities need to be more than a competitive business climate. They need to be a great people climate. What the hell does that mean? Great people climate, That's about, that's a socialist code word, I guess. Okay. Because of this, a shift in more dense urban living would provide an outlet for social interaction and conditions under which humans can prosper. I guess you can't prosper in more rural areas or even the suburbs, according to them, because it has to be in urban areas. These types of urban areas would also promote the use of public transit, walkability, and biking, which would benefit citizens health-wise, but also be environmentally beneficial. Okay, once again, more propaganda. Contrary to common belief, this is where it gets great. Okay, check this out. Contrary to common belief, urban systems can be more environmentally sustainable than rural or suburban living. There's no agenda here, is there? No. With people and resource located so close to one another, it is possible to save energy for transportation and mass transit systems and resources such as food. What? I didn't think that a lot of food was grown in urban areas. I don't know if almost any of it is. Of course not. This is, of course, just a theory, right? So yeah, it says cities benefit the economy by locating human capital in one relatively small geographic area where ideas can be generated. Having a more dense urban space would also increase people's efficiency, since they wouldn't have to spend as much time commuting to places if resources are located close together, which in turn would benefit the economy since people can use this extra time on other matters like work. So the takeaway is this. There's a push to get more people to live in urban areas under this supposed guise of, in the future and with more sustainable cities, that it's going to be better for everybody and the planet, and for climate change. There's a push for diversity, which on the outside doesn't sound so bad. But what happens if your area just inherently is not diverse? Like in my area, most people are from Europe, their ancestors are, at least. They're just like white people from Europe that have probably migrated over the last few hundred years, I guess my area would not be considered diverse enough. But at the same time, most of us out here that I've met, at least, aren't a problem. We're not like biased. We're not like hateful toward other people that look different than us. You know what I'm saying? So there's a real problem when there's a forced diversity on a population. And there's this agenda to convince us that there are threats to our world that aren't true. That when we exhale and when we have flatulence, that's causing air pollution. And overall, this whole idea that politics is like the cornerstone or one of the cornerstones. Definitely government is part of the equation of having a sustainable city. But government should be just a very small part of it. And I don't know if it should be a cornerstone. The people are the backbone of any living location, any city. And I really do believe that people need to wake up and just take back whatever power that they gave to governments. And this is what you have to remember. And I have a lot of people who watch my videos from all around the world. And even though I'm not a large channel, I don't ever pretend that I am. But let me just tell you this. You are the people of your country. You are the citizens. You gave the power to your government to rule over you. You can always take it back or minimize their influence in your life. So do not sit back and just be okay with things when they impede in your liberties and they cause problems in your life. They work for you, not you for them. You're the one that put them in power because you wanted to have a system in place and a bit of order. But what's happened around the world is governments are just completely taking advantage of their people. And they're making them slaves in different forms. So we have to be very cautious of runaway governments, rogue governments, tyrannical governments. And what we see now more than ever, we have various types of governments that are more popular than others. We're seeing a lot more socialist governments that are popping up. Some of them with heavy hands. And so when a government gets out of control like that, and I think that the U.S. government is right there on the edge, of being completely in violation. They're already in violation of all kinds of things. But I'm talking like, people get up in arms about it. People, fight back. Another civil war. I don't think that's like that far off if the government continues this trend of, crossing the line with its people, the people that put them into power. And we got to put people in their place. And there is no better way, in my opinion, than to actually talk to other people and allow them to understand where we've come from and where we are now and the differences. The government is not the end all be all. And this force that people think that is just unstoppable, it's stoppable, all right. The one world order that's been trying for a long, long time, for hundreds of years, if not longer, trying to control the world, they're pretty successful at doing a lot of things when it comes to control. But they still don't control us completely yet. And so we can make choices of who to support and how we live our lives that doesn't empower these freaks. And so I'm telling you, we all don't live very long. Our life on this planet is very short, but we can make a lot of impact when we're here. And so being empowered to make choices and to think on our feet is going to be something that's going to be in high demand, more than it even is now. I mean, right now, common sense is in short supply. I mean, you can just look on YouTube and just see people who make videos, even though only a small percent of the population makes videos, but just a few that do. Wow. It's like, did they get dropped when they were a kid? Did they just not have any type of common sense, or did their parents not raise them, or what's the problem? So it's like you get to a point in your life and you're like, I think this is getting pretty close to having to push back, a time period of pushback. What do you think?